Growing up in Maplewood, I always thought my family was perfectly ordinary. I mean, of course, we had our quirks, like the way my little brother insisted that every Saturday was dedicated to fort building out of couch cushions, or how my younger sister would belt out show tunes while hanging laundry. Those moments felt mundane, but now I realize they were the little thing that strung us together. Yet, that afternoon, everything shifted. I was relaxing in the living room, flipping through a magazine that boasted about summer destinations I could hardly fathom. The scent of my mother's homemade pasta wafted in from the kitchen, mingling with the faint smells of fresh basil and a hint of garlic. But peace would shatter that afternoon like the glasses on the dining table when anger boiled over within those walls. I had been flipping the pages with no real purpose when suddenly muffled voices broke through the atmosphere of normalcy. The sound was faint at first, just murmured phrases washed over by the bubbling of pasta water. But as I turned the page, the argument crescendoed. My heart raced, each beat eerily synchronized with the growing tension. Curiosity, that ever-present trait of mine, gripped my insides and pushed me from my comfortable perch on the couch. I crept softly to the kitchen door, arching my neck just enough to catch a glimpse of my parents. I could see their silhouettes through the partially open door. My mother's hands sliced through the air, each movement passionate, filled with a vivid energy I had never seen directed at my father before. "You can't keep hiding this from the kids. $50,000, 50,000, for God's sake," she practically whispered, but there was no mistaking the gravity in her tone. Those words hunted me like a predator stalking its prey, the reality of my father being $50,000 in debt levying a weight on my chest that felt insurmountable. I gasped silently. Each breath I took felt more fragile than the last, as my mind raced to piece together this newfound information. I had never imagined my father could be anything but the strong, stoic figure who worked long hours, who seemed so invulnerable in his calm demeanor. Now, I was witnessing a crack in that armor, the first time I recognized a vulnerability I had only sensed vaguely before. "We can't afford to keep pretending everything is fine." My mother's voice strained, echoing through the walls and wrapping around me like a suffocating fog. Every harsh syllable pierced through my heart, sending a ripple of fear coursing through me. I strategically pressed my ear against the door, desperate to catch every fragment of their conversation. "I'm going to find a way out of this," my father's voice came, low and rough. It was unusual to hear him so unsteady. I need time. Time." The word hung heavy in the air, and I could see his shadow shift, his shoulders slumping slightly. "Time? You don't understand. Our bills are piling up, and we have to think about the kids." My mother's voice cracked, breaking the resolve that mirrored the twilight setting outside. What did this mean? I kept asking myself, buzzing with anxiety. I wanted to call my siblings, to make sure they were okay, to have them and me reassess their innocence before it was lost entirely. I could feel the warmth of the kitchen light washing over my skin, yet it did nothing to ease the chill rising within me. The conversation dragged deeper into murky waters. "Miriam, I promise, I will fix this." His words were laced with an urgency that screamed helplessness beneath the bravado. There was silence for a moment that swallowed even the sounds of sizzling noodles in the pot. I wanted to break into the kitchen, to demand answers out loud, but fear made me a prisoner, fettered by uncertainty. I peered into the truth far too raw for my heart to comprehend. "How can you say that? We can't afford more of your promises," my mother hissed in agony, the word promises sharpened like a dagger aimed at his chest. My heart expanded within me, wavering with her hurt. The stark contrast between us seemed unfathomable, my father and his secrets battling against my mother's aching disappointment. "You think I want this?" he exclaimed, a mix of anger and desperation surfacing. "What do you want me to do? Sell myself on the streets? My pride? Pride." The word reverberated within me, igniting a tumult of emotions that merged anger and sorrow like a storm storming in. My family had always handled everything with a calm facade, a rare union of stubbornness and resolve. Hearing them clash over something so fundamental made the foundations of my everyday fears rise like smoke: bill collectors, potential foreclosure, screams disguised as whispers. I inhaled deeply, tasting the remnants of pasta sauce burning with frustration and contempt. "I can't tell the kids, I won't," my mother finally relented, but the resignation in her voice cut deep. "They see you. They look up to their father. I can't shatter their world, Dean." My chest tightened painfully. I thought about my little siblings seated innocently at the dinner table, blissfully unaware that darkness lingered just beyond the walls that should protect them. "It's not just about you and me anymore," he replied, his voice softer now, an almost pleading undertone weaving through. They deserve to grow up without this hanging over their heads. I wanted to scream that I already felt its weight. I felt like I was floating in turmoil, weightless yet heavy. The reality of my father's disgrace drew tighter like a noose around my throat, and I could hardly bear to absorb their chaos any longer. I withdrew from the door, my heart thrumming violently in response to revelations I could hardly process. I felt like a trespasser within my own home, a witness to a conflict that contradicted my previous notions of family harmony. They had always shielded us from the harshness of reality. Yet here it was, raw and jagged, a wild beast that now lurked behind the scenery of forgiveness and love I had taken for granted. This new knowledge settled in the pit of my stomach like a lead weight, and an unfamiliar instinct sparked inside me, sparking vulnerability to rage. I needed to confront them, to put an end to the facade, for myself and for my siblings. I couldn't act like all was well when I felt the mismatched beats of my parents' lives strumming a discordant symphony. I wanted to ask for clarity, to demand the truth straight from their lips. But a chilling thought gripped me. What if I revealed my knowledge before I fully grasped the situation? In just that small moment of reflection, I wondered about our dinner table. Each night it stood as a threshold, with the light illuminating our shared meals beneath a slice of normality, oblivious to the storm ready to engulf us. I envisioned my sister's cheerful laugh cascading like music, my brother swapping tales of imaginary villains with the kind of passion only children manage. They had no idea, and yet I felt like a time bomb, my heart racing, limbs shaking, internal chaos begging to be set free. Swallowing hard, I retreated to the living room, aware of the contrast between the warmth of my family's laughter and the dust of reality that threatened to encumber us. The shadows creeping in from the kitchen felt like shackles, wrapping around me, distributing the weight of unspoken conversations. But it would not stay quiet for long. I would not allow it. I just needed to figure out how to untangle myself from this secret before it grew to crush us all. As the sun set further behind the horizon, casting long shadows in our home, I felt the air grow thicker around me, suffocating. Resilience thrummed within me, and I would keep searching for answers or plans until the last spark of hope flickered. One way or another, I pledged silently to confront this weight that hung over us, come what may. It would linger no longer, and I, just 20 years old, eager and burning with dreams, would not be the one to turn away from it. Not any more weeks turned into months as my father's financial troubles became the unspoken shadow cast over our family. I sat on the edge of my bed, the familiar beige walls of my room closing in around me, feeling the weight of it all thick in the air. The quiet that filled our home was deafening, and I could almost hear echoes of laughter from better days, memories that felt like they belonged to someone else's life. Now, as I brushed my fingers across the surface of my nightstand, I could feel the smudged spots from long-ago happiness, each small mark a reminder of family dinners and chaotic mornings filled with my father's booming voice calling us to breakfast. Out in the hallway, I could hear the soft click of my mother's heels on the hardwood floor, a sound I used to find comforting. Now it sent shivers down my spine. I knew she was trying, putting on those forced smiles that never quite reached her eyes. She braided her hair tighter and wore a brave face, masking her worries as she quietly rearranged her spending habits, swapping family movie nights for silent evenings spent alone in her thoughts. It was strange to grow up so quickly, and I could feel the burden shifting on my shoulders, pressing down as I watched our family dynamic twist and turn like a river finding its way around jagged rocks. Cookbooks that once lay open on the kitchen counter were now gathering dust, their pages crisp and forgotten, forlorn relics of happier times. Instead, takeout menus piled high, framing the refrigerator like a collage of despair. The once vibrant images of fried rice and burgers sparked no joy in our household. Just last week, I had been struck by the dizzying thought that I could attach those menus to a string and hang them like a banner of shame. "We have to eat," I had whispered aloud to no one, and my mother had only nodded without looking up from her phone. I wanted to scream that we could do better, that we were better than this, and then there was my father. My heart sank just thinking about him. The strong, boisterous man I had admired since childhood was fading, like a photograph left too long in the sun. I felt as if he had turned into a ghost, haunting his own life, mere wisps of laughter slipping away into the ether. His usual hearty chuckles were now sporadic, fleeting, replaced by silence that screamed louder than any words. I wondered if he could feel the dark, heavy cloud hovering above him, pressing down as his dreams slowly crumbled around him. Dinner had become an awkward game of avoidance. The family gatherings that once brimmed with chatter twisted into silent battles where everyone picked at their food, chewing without tasting. I remember the last time I forced myself to choke down a mouthful of lukewarm pasta. "Can you pass the cheese?" I had asked, breaking the uncomfortable quiet, only to be met with the melancholic gaze of my father, his eyes dull like fading stars. "Do you want more sauce?" He had replied weakly, rather than answering my question, his voice barely above a whisper. I nodded, but the sauce barely made it to my plate before I put my fork down, feeling frustrated, helpless. I had tried talking to him once, opening my heart as wide as I could manage. "Dad, are you okay? Do you need help, anything?" Those words had tumbled out in a swirl of panic, desperation bubbling beneath the surface of my steady tone. I leaned forward, searching his eyes for a flicker of the man I knew, longing to bridge the gap that had started to stretch between us. But he brushed me aside with a wave of his hand, his face twisting into something I couldn't decipher. "I can handle it," he insisted, voice firm yet trembling. Beneath the weight of that declaration, I saw tear-stained days etched upon his cheeks. They crisscrossed like a map of uncharted territory, drawing me into a world I wanted so desperately to understand but could not. "No, you can't," I thought, but instead I just nodded, feeling my resolve flicker like a candle in the wind, unsure and swayable. I remembered how the sun had slowly retreated one evening, filling the room with shadows as I had retreated to my own room, heart heavy with tight-lipped disappointment. Then came that evening, the one that shattered my heart into 1,000 pieces. I had been walking down the stairs, knee-deep in thoughts of how I could help, when I heard it, the soft, broken sobs leaking from my father's study. My gut turned, and a chill rushed down my spine, as if the world had suddenly plunged into winter. I hesitated at the door, my hand hovering just above the cool doorknob. Should I push it open? Part of me longed to escape from the bated breath of despair that swirled in the air. I had half a mind to turn back and pretend I hadn't heard anything. But then I pressed my ear to the door, and anguish seeped into my soul. "So sorry," he sobbed, voice cracking under the weight of his emotions. "I've let you down, I've let us down." Each word punctured me, making it hard to breathe. I wanted to stomp through that door, to wrap my arms around him and whisper that he had not let us down, that we still believed in him. But I stood there, paralyzed, my heart racing as I listened to my father's heartbreak tumble out into the room, filling every corner like smoke. The shaky breaths he took felt like they were also ripping apart the last vestiges of my childhood. It ignited something within me, a realization that I had been running from. I had to do something. I resolved then and there that I would become the backbone of our family, the one to save us from this strange new life where silence reigned supreme and despair clouded our every thought. But how would I tackle such a daunting task? I racked my brains, trying to think of ways to support him and make things better, but each thought felt like a drop in an ever-expanding ocean of despair. I closed my eyes, focusing on my breathing, hoping to summon a spark of inspiration, something to pull us back together, to piece our family fabric back into something whole and vibrant again. I could take a job, I thought suddenly. The idea felt as fragile as a whisper, almost embarrassing to consider. It wasn't like I hadn't thought it before, but this felt different. It felt tangible, something I could grasp with both hands. I could wait tables or work at the grocery store, I whispered to myself, the words barely freeing themselves from my lips as if admitting it would make it more real. Is that enough? I wondered, biting my lip as I played my thoughts in fast forward. My father wouldn't want me to work, he was too proud for that. But what did pride matter when it was clear we were sinking? I could feel this burning within me, an urge to prove that I could bear more than I had ever been asked to before. My brain and heart were in a dizzying dance, so lost in thought and determination that I almost missed the sound of slippered footsteps padding softly down the hallway. I stepped back from the door just as my mother's shadow passed by, her silhouette slipping by like a whisper in the night. I thought about calling out to her, about telling her that I needed to talk, that we were caught in a web of misunderstanding and fear. But I hesitated, feeling a pang of sadness in the pit of my stomach. Would she understand? Or would she simply furrow her brow in confusion, unable to absorb the weight of my newfound determination? I bit down harder on my lip, staring at the spot where she had disappeared, as if somehow that could anchor me amidst the rising tide of uncertainty. Before I could lose myself further, I turned away from the door and closed my eyes again, envisioning what I could do. Each idea expanded like ripples in a pond, growing and filling in the gaps where despair had once overshadowed our family. I can do this, I thought, feeling a fierce resolve burn bright within. I could save us, but first I had to find my voice, the voice I had muffled underneath layers of doubt and hesitation. I would need to navigate this path, not just for myself, but for my father, my mother's, and our family. It was going to be an uphill battle, but I refused to let the darkness swallow us whole. And so I began to plot, quietly envisioning my escape from the burdensome silence, ready to dive headfirst into the unknown. If all it took was my determination and courage to pull us back from the brink, then I would rise like a phoenix from these ashes. One step at a time, one idea after another, nothing would hold me back now. I was determined to become the anchor in this tumultuous storm, ready to defy despair and claim the strength that lay within me. After all, in the heart of every storm, a single gust of wind can usher in the dawn. I could no longer just stand by and watch. The night after discovering my father in tears was when I made my decision. It was a quiet evening in Maplewood when I entered the house, the kind of chill that nipped at your ankles, hinting of the winter to come. My siblings were already asleep, and the house settled into that uneasy silence that often follows a storm. I had no idea that storm was brewing below the surface of my father's stoic demeanor until I saw him hunched over on the couch, his hands covering his face as though he could hide from the world that was crashing down around him. The sight pierced right through me, an arrow shot into my heart that carried lessons of desperation and pain. I was used to seeing my father as a stronger figure, the backbone of our household, but in that moment, he appeared smaller, shrunken under the weight of worry. Everything felt wrong, like an uprooted tree left floundering in an empty field. With each low sob that escaped his lips, my heart sank deeper until I knew I could no longer just stand by and watch. After a restless night, my bed felt like a prison. I tossed and turned, my mind racing faster than I could keep up. In the recesses of my thoughts, there was only one thing that echoed repeatedly. I had to do something, anything. I felt the urgency blooming inside me like spring flowers that bust out of the snow without warning. I noticed echoes of my father's spirit diminishing each day. He crunched numbers, weighed bills, and followed the same tired routine. He had given so much of himself for our family, and I decided I would give something back. I rummaged through old boxes in the attic, hoping to find something of value worthy to change our fate. The attic was a world of shadows, dusty memories swirling through the air, glimmering in the narrow beams of light that sneaked in through the little window. I navigated through the maze of old furniture and forgotten toys, the floor creaking beneath my weight. The smell of aged paper and mothballs filled my nostrils. I brushed aside a collection of mismatched knickknacks and old clothes, feeling like an archaeologist uncovering artifacts from the past. Books, old photographs, and tarnished frames littered the spaces between the boxes, each a whisper of lives lived long ago. And then I saw it, a flash of silver caught in the corner of my eye. It was nestled there, in a corner box that seemed to glimmer even in the dimness. I reached in, fingers trembling slightly as I pulled it free from its resting place. It was my late grandfather's pocket watch, a family heirloom that somehow survived the years, its face clouded with a fine layer of dust, but still holding that unmistakable shine. I let my fingers glide over its surface, tracing the engraved patterns that spiraled around the edges. Memories flickered in my mind, my grandfather laughing, the stories he told, the way he always seemed to have the time for everything and everyone. This was his favorite, I whispered to myself, the weight of nostalgia flooding over me. I felt a lump in my throat, memories playful yet painful. My heart raced as I lifted the watch from its resting place, understanding its sentimental worth, but none of that could match the financial burden looming over my father. Just a glimpse of the watch's insides, intricately designed gears glinting under the light, made me momentarily forget my purpose. That should have been enough to stay my hand, to put the watch back and honor the legacy it represented. Yet as I stood there in the attic, its silence enveloping me, the image of my father's face came rushing back. I remembered the proud way he always tucked me in beneath the warm blankets, the way he stood tall despite the crushing weight of bills. I could not ignore the hurricane of emotions swirling inside me. I hesitated, torn between honoring my grandfather's memory and saving my family. The scales of sentimentality tipped in my heart but fell to the louder call of need. The watch would be worth at least $5,000, I was sure of it. The attic's shadows danced as I left, heart thumping, as I clutched the watch like it was a fragile bird in my hands. I placed it on my desk, its presence looming over my thoughts like a dark cloud, pushing against the very fabric of my conscience. I scribbled down the plan late into the night, each letter punctuated with determination. My hands shook slightly as they flew across the page, moments described clearly yet bitter. I envisioned how I could discreetly sell the watch, pay off a fraction of my father's debt, and comfort him in his pain. The ink absorbed my hopes, while the fading glow from my desk lamp sent shadows creeping along the walls, echoing the torment of my decision-making. Maybe he will be relieved, I muttered, trying to convince myself. Maybe just a bit happier. That thought anchored me as I rolled onto my bed, setting my alarm for dawn, that faint hope flickering in my chest like a cautious flame. The dull ache of anticipation filled me as I sank into sleep, the watch locked away in my mind alongside my burdens. The next day arrived, bringing with it a cool breeze that seeped through the cracked window, sweeping across my face like a gentle reminder of time ticking incessantly by. The day felt ripe with opportunity, yet laced with danger. Every moment seemed to vibrate with the tension of what I was about to do. While my father was at work and my siblings were at school, the house stood empty, a perfect canvas for my intentions. Tears prickled at my eyes as I slipped the watch into my pocket. I could feel its weight pressing against me, both a reassurance and a reminder of the choice I was making. "This is for him," I kept telling myself, the mantra spinning in circles as I trekked down the road. Maplewood looked deceptively peaceful with its leaf-strewn sidewalks and quaint houses smiling under the sun's gaze. Arriving at the local jeweler felt surreal. The shop was a small, family-owned place, the kind that had survived years of changing times, but still held onto the old-world charm of polished wood and the faint smell of metal. With each step inside, I looked around, my heart racing like a frightened rabbit. Soft chimes rang above the door as I approached the counter, my chest tightening as I caught sight of the jeweler, an old man with sharp eyes and a warm demeanor. "Good morning," he greeted, eyes scanning my fidgety form. "What can I help you with today?" Hello," I stammered, anxiety coiling tightly around my throat like a noose. I have a watch I would like to sell." The words felt heavy as they slipped from my mouth, a confession born out of love and necessity. His interest piqued, the jeweler gestured for me to place the watch on the counter. It landed with a soft thud, the familiar scent of polished metal wafting into the air, seeming to carry within it moments of the past. "For the family, you said?" he asked with a tight smile, picking the watch up carefully, studying it, eyes narrowing. "This is quite a piece." "Your grandfather's, correct?" I swallowed hard, searching for my composure. "Yes, it was in my family for generations. But," I paused, my voice trembling, "my father, he needs help." The jeweler's expression softened, his weathered hands gently cradling the timepiece. I could see him weighing its value against the story I had shared, hearing the unspoken words held within my tone. "Family heirlooms carry heavy burdens," he said softly, nodding as if understanding more than I could express. "I just want to help him. This might be enough for a payment, at least part of it," I whispered, feeling heavier with every silent tick of the watch. The vibrant gleam in his eye dulled slightly with the weight of my story. After what felt like an eternity, the jeweler set the watch down with care, pulling out a small scale. He weighed it, the clicking sound echoing in the intimate space. "You understand, it is worth more than just the metal or the mechanics inside. It has memories, love, family." "There is a story here." "I know," I fought to keep my voice steady, "but right now my father needs security more than memories." His gaze softened again, I could see the empathy there. "I will offer you a fair price, one that respects this piece's history but also provides a meaningful contribution." He paused, looking at me with those bright, wise eyes. $700. "Seven what?" My heart sank, waves of disappointment crashing into me. I had hoped for so much more, the echo of 5,000 still clanging in my ears. "Is that really?" he sighed, sensing my internal battle. "It is a fair price. Many may be interested, but your emotions surrounding this piece could be devastating in the future. I can't offer you more without feeling I am robbing you of something far more important." A lump formed in my throat. "But my father," I choked, swallowing hard against the tears that threatened to spill. "The debts are—" "I understand completely," he said, voice low and caring. "I want to help you, but you must consider how you will feel about this tomorrow." As the weight of his words settled in my heart, I felt a glimmer of resolve slipping away. "I just need to do something," I replied, the plea dripping from my voice like honey. "Something is not always what is best," he reminded me softly. Reflect on this decision. I will hold the watch here until you decide what is right for you." I forced myself to nod, grateful for his understanding, but also burdened with uncertainty. As I walked out, the bell chimed overhead, a sound that felt discordant against my spinning thoughts. Stepping back into the daylight, the world felt both larger and more confined. I took a deep breath, looking up at the bright blue sky that seemed tauntingly carefree. In my heart, I knew I had just begun a journey that would force me to confront not just the reality of my father's debts, but the ghost of what my choices might cost my family. As I moved down the street, the heaviness of the watch's absence lingered at my side, the echo of my choice resonating in my chest. A reminder that breaking the chains of our burden might come with sacrifices that were greater than I had ever imagined. The weight of relief washed over me like the first warmth of spring after a long winter. It had only been days since I finalized my decision to sell the watch, that glimmering relic of my family's history that had hung on my wrist through countless celebrations and quiet moments of reflection. Letting it go felt like casting off a heavy chain, bittersweet, yes, but the joy of lifting a burden was undeniable. I had pursued this plan single-mindedly, the image of my father's waning spirit pushing me to action. The transaction felt almost surreal as the dealer's enthusiastic nodding echoed in my mind, his eyes practically sparkling with greed as he handed me 5 crisp bills, a lifesaver amount of $5,000. In the quiet of the evening, I approached my father's desk, an ordinary piece of furniture that suddenly felt monumental, the weight of my decision almost heavy in the air. I paused, trembling slightly as I held the envelope. Its contents represented not just money but hope, a flickering flame in the darkness. The desk was cluttered as always, surrounded by papers spilling over the edges, remnants of my father's dreams and worries clashing in that small space. My heart raced as I placed the envelope down, my hand brushing the scratchy surface of the desk, a physical connection linking my family's past to an uncertain future. Dad came in shortly after, his brow crinkling in that familiar way that meant he was deep in thought. I watched him as he approached, my heart pounding, the moment tick-ticking like an anxious clock. He sighed a little and my stomach lurched. Would he see the envelope? Would he understand its significance? I held my breath, willing him to notice. "Hey, Dad," I said, attempting to project a casualness I did not feel. He looked up, eyes flickering from the envelope to me. "What is this?" he asked, his voice quiet, almost hesitant. "Just something," I replied, my throat tightening. He picked it up, the corners of the envelope crinkling under his fingers. As he opened it, there was confusion in his eyes, like he was searching for a meaning that wasn't immediately clear. When he finally pulled out the bills, the warmth in his expression began to melt the ice that had formed between us. The bills caught the dim light of the lamp, reflecting a soft glow that illuminated his face. "Where did this come from?" There was genuine surprise, a hint of disbelief. I hadn't planned for this moment, for the question that loomed over us. I didn't want to burden him with the truth. It felt too heavy, too complicated. I just wanted to help. His brow furrowed, and for a moment, it seemed as if the weight of the world was still pressing down on his shoulders. But then, slowly, I saw something shift in him. Understanding was like a dawn breaking through the night, washing over every shadow. "Help." He held the bills closer, memory flashing across his face as if he was trying to fit the pieces together. I nodded, trying to grapple with the swirl of emotions settling in my chest. "It can ease things a little, Dad, for now." He placed the money on the kitchen counter, fiddling with the edges of the envelope as if he were searching for answers hidden within the folds of paper. The night enveloped us, the low hum of the refrigerator the only sound breaking the stillness between us. I wished I could read his thoughts, decipher the thoughts swirling behind those dark eyes. "Your mother," he said hesitantly, breaking the silence that had settled like a soft blanket. "What do I tell her? Just tell her the truth?" I took a breath, my heart racing with the anticipation of his next move, my palms sweaty against the cool surface of the desk. "Just tell her I wanted to help." He nodded slowly as if the weight of the envelope was anchoring him to the moment. I watched as he paused, contemplating everything that had been unspoken for so long. Rising to his feet, he turned to call my mother. "Mia," she yelled from another room, the sound of her voice carrying with it warmth and comfort. She came into the kitchen, her expression shifting from curiosity to disbelief as she saw the envelope sitting innocently on the counter. "What's with that?" she asked, glancing back and forth between my dad and me. "Mom," he began, voice steady yet softer than I'd ever heard it. "I want you to look at this." He handed her the bills, and I held my breath as I watched her face change. from confusion to disbelief, then finally to joy, visible lightness flooding her eyes. "Where did this come from?" she asked, her tone filled with wonder. "Your daughter wanted to help." I watched as her expression shifted, confusion melting into warmth, the tightness in my chest loosening with every passing second. "Mia," she said softly, looking at me with eyes that held the fullness of love, along with a hint of concern. "I sold the watch," I confessed, every word pulling at that knot deep inside me, the one I had successfully managed to ignore. I thought we could use it for bills or groceries or," I trailed off, unsure if I should dive deeper into the consequences of my action. "Oh, Mia," my mother said, emotion thickening her voice. "You didn't have to do that." "I know, but I wanted to," I insisted. "I just wanted us to be okay." I could see the floodgates of understanding open wide between them, the weight of the unspoken struggles from those previous months folding into the light of realization that perhaps, just perhaps, things could be made whole again. My father hesitated, gathering his thoughts. "It's incredible what you've done. It really is." His voice was rich with appreciation, each syllable carefully laid out, building a bridge from his heart to mine. "For us," my mother added, wrapping her arm around my father in a tender embrace. "You've given us a gift, Mia, a chance to breathe again." The tension that had filled our home for so long began to evaporate. Laughter bubbled up from somewhere deep inside, coaxing those old memories back to the surface. It felt joyful and bright, a light illuminating the darkest corners of our lives, pushing away the shadows that had been lingering long enough. Months passed like a river flowing steadily onward, carrying with it the warmth of laughter, the sound of my father's confidence returning, each small victory a note in a beautiful symphony. We found our rhythm again, our family lost, and now miraculously found in one another's company. Despite the lingering shadow of that watch, I took a deep breath of satisfaction each time I witnessed my father cracking a joke at dinner or sharing stories we've not heard in a long time. I saw my mother smile more, her laughter mixing with my father's, forging new memories stitched together by the fabric of love and honesty. I let the warmth fill my heart, basking in the secret fulfillment that lodged neatly between my ribs, an ember tucked away, flickering quietly. I had played a part in this resurrection, one that went beyond just saving some money. I had given them hope, a chance to heal from their unrelenting burdens, and it felt powerful, like a spell I had cast that ended in joy instead of foreboding darkness. Each day, I cherished the connection we were rebuilding, knowing I had chosen not only to sacrifice a piece of our family's history, but to infuse our future with brighter possibilities. The smell of garlic and tomatoes wafted through the air, a fragrant reminder of home. It wrapped around me like a warm blanket as I stepped into the kitchen. My mother stood at the stove, stirring a pot of bubbling marinara sauce, her face lit up with the glow of happiness that had been absent for far too long. I leaned against the doorframe, taking a moment to soak in the scene before me. The kitchen, usually a place of stress and tension after everything that had happened, now felt alive again, pulsing with energy and the kind of contentment I had always longed for. "Dinner's almost ready," my mother called out, looking over her shoulder and flashing a smile that made her eyes sparkle. "Can you set the table?" I nodded, moving into the dining room where the sunlight streamed through the window, casting a soft golden hue on the wooden table. I could hear my younger siblings laughing in the living room, their giggles bouncing off the walls like music. Each sound fed my heart, a melody of normalcy slowly being restored in our home. I set the plates down, carefully arranging everything, but my mind wandered to the journey we had taken to reach this moment. My fingers grazed the edge of the table as I recalled how selling my grandfather's watch had felt like tearing a piece of my soul away, yet had ultimately become a bridge to pull my family from the brink of despair. "Mia," my father's voice thudded against my heart, a sound I had almost forgotten could be so light, so free from worry. I turned to see him step into the dining room, his hair tousled and his expression brighter than it had been in months. "Do we have enough forks?" he asked, his tone playfully serious as he peered at me, eyebrows raised. "There will be plenty, Dad," I chuckled, leaning back against the table. I made sure to count right after I set everything up. A sense of pride buzzed through me. The joy in his eyes reflected how far we had come, how much we had clawed back from the depths of hopelessness. It was as if he sensed my emotions standing raw and exposed beneath the surface. He crossed the room, wrapping me in an embrace that felt like a shield against the world. "I cannot tell you how much I appreciate everything you have done, Mia. Selling that watch, it wasn't easy, was it?" "No, but it was worth it." I pulled away to look into his kind eyes. I needed to do something to help you, to help us all. He gave a soft nod, a silent understanding passing between us. The weight that had been heavy in his posture was lifting. You've done more than help, you've opened my eyes. I am grateful for your selflessness. His words filled the space around us with a warmth that melted away the lingering shadows. I remembered the nights spent listening to him spiral into despair, his voice heavy with unshed tears and dreams that felt impossibly far away. But now, here he was, smiling as he discussed plans for our family's future. I was thinking, he said, breaking the momentary silence, that we could go camping this summer, just the 5 of us like we used to. My heart danced at the thought. That sounds amazing, Dad. I can't remember the last time it felt that easy to make plans. Exactly. Let's make new memories. He chuckled lightly, seemingly picturing visions of happy faces around a crackling campfire. And I promise to finally teach you how to fish properly. I laughed at the image of my previous attempts, which had ended in tangled lines and a lot of flustered grumbling. All right, you're on. Just then, the sound of footsteps thundered from the living room, and my younger siblings bolted into the dining area, breathless from their games. What are we having for dinner? My brother exclaimed, eyes wide with excitement. Your favorite spaghetti. My mother called as she joined us now, carrying a bowl of bright green salad that looked fresh and crisp. Yay! Are we having dessert too? My sister chimed in, her eyes narrowing with hope, knowing that our mother had also begun baking again. Only if you all behave, my mother warned with mock seriousness, tilting her head as she placed the salad on the table, the clink of ceramic slicing through the chatter. Can I also add cheese, please? My brother piped up, his face hopeful and earnest. Only if you wash your hands, my mother fired back, a knowing smile betraying her stern tone. I watched the interactions with a full heart as I took my place at the table. The familiar clatter of forks against plates filled the air, punctuated by laughter and playful banter. It was beautiful, this moment, a tapestry of family woven with threads of shared love, struggles, and triumphs. Hey, what do you all say we go around and share one thing we're thankful for? My dad suggested, his voice steady and confident. Oh, this again? My brother teased, rolling his eyes dramatically. He means it, so go on, I said, nudging him playfully. Oh fine, I am thankful for my video games. My brother grinned, arms crossed, proud of his contribution. I am thankful for my dolls. My sister beamed, jumping in next. I smiled at their innocence and joy. I am thankful for all of you and for having our family together like this. I looked at my dad, who nodded with appreciation. And I am thankful to have you all at the table tonight. After everything, it means the world to me, he said, sincerity weaving through his words. I feel stronger every day, knowing that we are in this together. The conversation flowed smoothly from there as we migrated topics from school to summer plans and dreams about future adventures. There was an air of lightness that I kept marveling at. My mother's laughter rang louder than it had in years, and I glimpsed the way her spirit was mending. She shared stories of childhood, weaving humor and warmth into nostalgic narratives that wrapped around us like a loving embrace. I remember when your father and I went camping and he forgot the tent. We ended up sleeping under the stars. She chuckled, her eyes gleaming with mischief. Hey, that one was not my fault. The list wasn't long enough. My father protested, laughing and adding fuel to her playful jibe. You just wanted to impress me. My mother shot back, the love in her voice radiating like the sun pouring through the kitchen window. Soon laughter erupted again, our shared stories encasing us in a bubble of happiness, free from the chains of our past burdens. I watched how the light from the lamp flickered against the walls as the evening progressed, casting soft shadows that danced along with us. As dinner plates cleared, my mother disappeared into the kitchen, and the kids began finishing up their desserts. I leaned back in my chair, letting the moment wash through me. Hey, you okay? My father asked quietly, sensing my mood shift. Yeah, I took a deep breath, grounding myself. I just can't believe how far we've come. It's been a journey, hasn't it? He sighed, leaning forward, his hands clasped. I don't think we would be here if it weren't for you. Your courage, your willingness to sacrifice it has ignited a spark in all of us. You brought hope back to this home. The weight of his words hit me powerfully. I didn't see myself as brave. I just did what I thought was best for our family. It's not just me, Dad. We are stronger together. We have to rely on one another. And we will, he smiled softly. The watch may be gone, but its legacy carries on through you. We will make new memories and honor that legacy in our own way. I felt a swell of pride surge within, richer than it had ever been. I promised to always be here for our family. And I meant it. In that moment, I understood the true value of sacrifice and unconditional love. Whatever had happened last year, whatever struggle I had faced, all of it had led to this: a family reborn, fortified by the trials we had conquered together. As we cleaned up and prepared to say goodnight, I felt the warmth of new beginnings surrounding me like a soft glow. I looked out the window and saw the evening sky painted in hues of twilight, brilliant and alive, much like what lay ahead for us. Resilience had rooted itself deep within our family tree, and I vowed to nurture it, to let it bloom and flourish. It wasn't just about the $5,000 or the watch anymore. It was about love, hope, and the strength found in struggles. It was about the legacy I would pass down, a legacy built on sacrifice, resilience, and unity. And in that clarity of love and family, I knew I would give anything to keep this moment alive.